everybody, Bruce McGonigal here. Happy Friday. So the Elbows Up crew seem to be amazingly silent on the arrest of Joe Tay's family in Hong Kong. For those who don't know who Joe Tay is or what's going on, you will want to watch this video, folks. It might be the most important video that I make this year. In October of 2024, while there was an inquiry into foreign interference going on, Justin Trudeau himself testified that Canada was facing threats of violence and death from abroad, but he blamed India. Listen.
Leadership, Mr. Speaker, taking seriously the safety of Canadians. Exactly. Mr. Speaker, the RCMP has concluded that the government of India was involved in the killing of a Canadian on Canadian soil, in extortion, in violence, in drive-by shootings, in home invasions, and the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada refuses to get his security clearance so that he can keep Canadians safe, can even keep his fellow MPs safe. That's why I've asked our security services to find a way to share some information with him so maybe he can do at least a part of his job.
The Indian response to these allegations and to our investigations was to double down on attacks against this government, attacks against this government's integrity, attacks against Canada in general, but also to arbitrarily eject dozens of diplomats from Canada, from Canadian diplomats from India, on absolutely no cause other than to say, well, we don't like what you said in the House about us.
There you have it, folks. Justin Trudeau flat out saying people are dying because of another country interfering in Canada. So they were supposed to pass Bill C-70 to protect Canadians from India, China, Iran, and other hostile foreign actors. But I warned at the time that Bill C-70 wasn't going to stop China at all, and in fact that the whole thing was basically a farce to convince Canadians that somehow Justin Trudeau didn't ignore CSIS warnings about foreign interference in Canada. What we know now is, not only was Justin Trudeau ignoring foreign interference in Canada if it benefited him, but that Mark Carney himself is all in on foreign interference if it helps him. Here's Paul Chang, folks. Listen to everything he has to say.
The media person, so that's all he did all his life. But also right now, he is wanted by the Chinese government, and there's a $1 million reward on his head. So they want, if you guys want to pick him up and take him to the Chinese consulate, you make him $1 million. I'm just joking, but there is a arrest warrant out for him from the government of China, and there is a reward for him. But apart from that, I can't say more than that.
Right. Imagine how Joe Tay and his family felt listening to Paul Chang turn around and tell people repeatedly that there is a bounty and reward on Joe Tay's head if anybody would manage to take him to the Chinese consulate in Canada. So in other words, he says it's a joke, but he kept repeating it. So if it's a joke, why would you do that over and over again? Unless you want everybody in that room to know that there is actually a $1 million Hong Kong bounty on your political rival that they can cash in on. And presumably, so that they could escape Canadian justice, those very same people would be taken care of by China and possibly transported to China or another nation where they won't be sent back to Canada. Make no mistake, folks, China does not allow democracy in China. That's why they're going after Joe Tay and his family. But China is more than happy to protect their candidates in our democracy, folks. Right? Listen very closely to what Mark Carney said about what Paul Chang said.
It's not just opposition parties calling for Mr. Chang's resignation, it's also at least 13 civil society groups. What message are you sending to Canadians who are worried about pressure from China when you allow him to stay on And how can you credibly criticize Pierre Poilievre for his lack of security clearance when Mr. Chang is considered a worthy candidate?
Well, the first thing, I can very credibly criticize the Leader of the Opposition for being at 930 days running and not having a security clearance. I will say as well, in the course of my responsibilities, current responsibility, I didn't do that, that wasn't me. I did manage to cut the piece of wood second time running. Although I was under expert supervision. No, getting back to these are serious matters, so I appreciate the question. But in the course of my responsibility as Prime Minister, just yesterday, I received an additional briefing on foreign interference and potential matters related to that. Of course, I can't share any details of that, but it just underscored once again, I take my responsibility seriously, but the extent to which Leader of the Opposition does not and hasn't for more than 3 years. In terms of, but to go back to the specifics of your question, this situation, look, I deeply offended by those comments. As I said, they're a terrible lapse of judgment. I view this as a teachable moment. It underscores the respect with which we treat human rights in this country, the differences between Canadian society and other countries. This, after all, though, I will go back to the character of the individual who made a lapse judgment. This is someone who has served our community, has been on the front line of policing for almost 3 decades, and has been standing up for those rights and has that track record for it. He's made his apology. He made it to the public. He made it to the individual concerned. He made it directly to me, and he's going to continue with his candidacy.
Okay, there you have it, folks. So the interim Prime Minister of Canada, who was not elected yet by the people, have basically decided that, hey, you know what, sometimes people make mistakes before an election, and, you know, threatening to have your opponent kidnapped or encouraging people to have your opponent kidnapped, or even potential threats of violence against family members abroad is now perfectly acceptable in Canadian democracy. C-70 didn't stop any of it, did it? And it certainly didn't stop Mark Carney even for a second to basically say, no biggie. So if it's no biggie, imagine what the diaspora in Canada feels over this. Imagine what those poor suckers are feeling after they came to Canada to get away from the Communist Party of China, and now the government in Canada is basically letting the Communist Party of China set up illegal police stations and parking an RCMP cruiser outside those police stations to make sure that nobody actually thinks that these are illegal police stations anymore, because if it was, obviously the police would be shutting them down.
So I'll be cautious in getting into some of the key examples, but one of the things is being visibly present, as you said. The other is working with partners that have authorities, whether it be CBSA, IRCC, Elections Canada. I'm having a blank here on.
I guess generally it's other government departments who can operate in that space and are probably better positioned to do the disruption than the organization.
Do you see this, folks? Our democracy, quote unquote, is being taken over by communists who do not allow democracy in their own country because it would threaten their power base. But attacking our democracy and rigging it here in Canada doesn't hurt the Communist Party of China. It doesn't hurt the Liberal Party of Canada. It hurts you and me. And this is dystopian, because once we're down this path where China can do it, no wonder why Donald Trump feels he can just screw with our elections. No wonder why India just sits there and gives Canada the middle finger. No wonder why Iran is laughing their ass off as pro-Palestine mobs not only take over streets across Canadian cities like Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, but then have their supporters call for our rights to be removed. So free Palestine, but free speech in Canada is over. So that's the price. We could free Palestine, but we have to start censoring Canadians, because apparently what you and I say actually affects what happens over in the Middle East, which is absolute nonsense. We don't even have control over our own democracy, folks. That's what the censorship is about. That's what this is all about, is turning us into China. In China, in Hong Kong, if you wrote a child's story about sheep protecting themselves from wolves, okay, this is what happens. Look at that, right? They put a bag over the guy's head, couple of eye holes, and then humiliate him in front of everybody. Everybody knows who his name is, but they cover up his face just for the shame factor, just to let people know this is a bad person, right? As you can see, folks, things have gone so south in Canada that we are no longer a free society. The true north, strong and free, no longer applies. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you liked this video, please share it. You can also subscribe to me on YouTube. That would help out dramatically to get the truth out, folks. Have a great one.